To repeat some things you've heard, and one of the things I want to go through with you all is something that all of you said was very beneficial, and I want everybody to think about this before we start. I'm going to ask you a question, and if you remember it, you probably remember the question. But first of all, let me give you the title of what I'm going to be talking about. It's actually the question we asked about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I don't want you to answer out loud. I just want you to think about it. Who were you before you were born? And I just want you to think about, maybe even in your brain, in your mind, thinking, okay, let's go back. Let me put it this way. You definitely weren't who you are right now. Now, first of all, let me ask this question. Now, you can answer this on your own. You don't have to raise your hand. Do you believe you existed before you were born? Now, this is very important. Today, I'm going to take you to who you were before you were born and who you are now. We're going to go from who you were before you were born to who you are at the present moment, right now. Now, let's see if this makes sense to you. It should make sense to you. And I'm going to use myself as the example. We did this last time. Before I was born, I was not Travis. Because who came up with that name? Mom and Dad. Before I was born, I had no physical genetic structure. Didn't have a body, did I? Now, this is if you believe you, which I do. I also believe, and let's see if you believe this. What were you? Not only who were you before you were born, what were you? Now, I believe I have these answers to the questions for myself. In my mind, these questions have been answered for me. Some people are still wondering. And they don't know who they are. You know, they're confused. Well, here's my belief. I believe I was, and I still am, pure energy. I was pure energy before I was born. Some people call it spirit. There's probably 10 different names you could give to it. And I believe, just as James Ray states it, energy that cannot be created or destroyed. Only what? Transform. Right. It can only change form. So, what I'm trying to get you here to think about, I want you to think. See, that's one of the problems one of the things we don't want to do for some reason. We don't want to think about these things for some reason. And I'll tell you why. Are you ready? Some of you are already subconsciously finding ways to be distracted. So you don't have to deal with this. Your mind might be wondering, And it's not you doing this. It's your current reality that's fighting to exist in the state that it's already in. Now I'm trying to make you aware of this so that you're not caught up in the current reality. You become the observer. You detach from this wiring and say, okay, I'm going to let go of this so I can. Now, what do I call it in the seminar at the beginning? I ask you to suspend your beliefs, remember? Or I ask you to shelve your belief system right now. Can you let go of it? So you can hear what I'm saying. See, if you can't, then you're going to automatically, subconsciously filter. Find ways. You'll do it in a lot of different ways. You'll distort the information. You'll generalize it. You'll change it in some way to make it fit your current reality, so that you feel safe and feel okay. Because your current reality is where you feel safe right now. Now the irony of this is, though, every one of you here wants your life to change for the better, right? Am I wrong? Do you know you can't have that and stay the way you are? Sorry. That's impossible. And that's the dichotomy or the parody that people are experiencing. They're seeking all this wonderful stuff. They want things to change, but they don't want to change a thing. Did you hear what I just said? Amen. They want things to change, but they don't want to change a thing. Now you talk about a real suffering. You really are putting yourself in hell. Because they're not going to. So, what I want you to see is, and I'm going to take you through these numbers that I've got numbered here. It's only 2 pages. And I'm going to take you, now, if you feel like answering, how many of you believe you existed before you were born? Do you know who you are, or who you were? Okay. Now, my belief system is that of course, you already know how I feel about it because I've mentioned it many times. I read an interesting, I'm getting the Laws of the Universe from John Assaraf. Is that how you say his name? Are you getting those? And the 4th one that came this week, he said that and it's about the duality. Started talking about duality. Did you read it? It's the same on your word. And he talked about that when you leave this consciousness of duality, you join wholeness, and there's only one. There is no more duality. He even says the same thing that we've been talking about. There is no separateness when you leave this realm. There's one energy, period. Okay. So now let's jump into our bodies. But let's jump in at our birth. Are you ready? Let's see how we got to where we are today. Now, first of all, if you existed before you were born, then that means that you are not your brain, your body, your emotions, or your experiences. None of those things are you. No more than these glasses are me. And I can lay them down anytime I want. There are no permanent attachments that make you. Remember, you're energy. You're pure energy. Are you with me? Okay. All right, let's go through the process here. Now, when you enter your body, you have a genetic predisposition and memory in cells from experiences in the past. See, what's one of the things you inherit with your physical body is memories. Did you know that? So that's part of the deal. That's part of the thing going on that you're dealing with too. You inherited tendencies, didn't you? Yes, you did. All right. No. In your genetics. In your genetic body. When I took on this body, my parents. Generations. See, I'm in the physical now. We're in the body. No, has nothing to do with reverse consciousness. No, no, no. No, no, no. We're talking about memory in the cells, genetics. All right? Yeah. In fact, because we come into this world with some tendencies before we even start becoming programmed. Because of the memories that are passed on through generations upon generations. Okay. So that's one thing you have. Now, as I'm teaching you this, though, none of this is permanent. Remember, even though you have this, what did I say? It's not you, though. Anything I'm talking about from this point on is not you. It's something you have. Are you with me? It's not you. It's something you have. All right. You have a brain, senses that begin to create what is now your current reality. Now here's the important part that you need to think about, and you already heard this before probably. Prenatal to 7 is your most imprinting years. You have no filter. None whatsoever. Now listen carefully. This is when you define or begin to define your reality. This is when you decide what is true or false. This is when you decide what is good or bad. This is when you decide what is right or wrong. This is when you decide what you can and cannot do. You define your relationships of every kind. You define your religious beliefs. You complete your belief and value system and define it. And the gestalt of the brain at that point begins to make generalizations about your view of life to dictate what you are going to believe and how you're going to respond. And you are wired. Your brain is wired. All right. Now let me ask you a question. You did not consciously reject any of that. See. Now let me make this clear to you though. Is any of that you? No. You're pure energy. You existed before this imprinting started. So this is merely experience, is all it is. Just recorded experience. But here's the problem. You are not aware of who you are as you're going through these years. So what are you slowly beginning to believe? That is who I am. Yes.
Kind of like reading somebody else's autobiography or something.
Exactly. That's a great example. So you are beginning to believe, and then pretty soon there's no difference. You believe this is who you are. Now, as I said, from 0 to 7, and starts in your mother's womb, as soon as you can hear, you have no filtering. Okay. Now let me ask you this question then. Did everybody have the exact same experience from 0 to 7? No. And guess what? There is no right or wrong reality. Just the one you've been imprinted with. But the brain says you've been taught that there is a right and wrong. You've been taught that there is good and bad. Right? Okay. And in your experiences, as these things happen to you, you know what happened? You subconsciously started creating strategies because of these experiences to make you feel safe. Now, some of these may be threatening to you. So you find a strategy to deal with that. And it becomes a subconscious strategy that you start using from that point on to avoid, see, to try to avoid that ever happening again or anything like that. Do you know what you have to do though to do that? You have to think about what you don't want. And what are the very thing that we've been learning in the last 6 months that you're not supposed to be doing? You don't want to focus on what you don't want. But that's what you've been taught to do from 0 on as a child, because that was your only mechanism. I've got to be aware of what's happening to me and go away from it. So you've been, see, this is what we don't realize is almost all of our strategies has not been to